Hey everybody, it's Ken McElroy. I'm here with Danille.
Hello.
And more importantly, here with my good friend Tarl Yarber, who just had a birthday. Hey, Tarl.
Actually, today is my birthday.
Oh, today. Oh, wow. I thought it was this weekend.
No. We do all the fun stuff, not on the... Today's Monday. It's a work day.
That's true. That's true. And just had my blessing to have hung out with you and Grace, your wife, and your beautiful son.
Yeah, we were very fortunate to go see you guys we didn't see you get married. We got to see the party after the marriage.
Yeah, you guys got to go to the fun part.
Yeah, the fun part. So instead of that boring Orchard Canyon wedding that you guys had, I'm sure.
I know.
Exactly.
So the reason I wanted Tarl on today, because a lot of you guys are stuck in this day-to-day grind. You're stuck in the, working for the man. And right now it's never been more apparent. And what I mean by that is, a lot of us are, we all started kind of working for somebody and, moving up in your career. And Tarl, it's been impressive to watch you, honestly. I know you're still young. You're just starting your new family. But why don't we talk about, because I think a lot of times people look at either myself or even Danille or even you now, and they don't realize like you had to kind of shift your mindset from working and grinding and being concerned about rent and bills and cars and going out and saving for vacations and all the things that we all have been and done. And sometimes it's hard to look at that journey. So let's start there, because I know you were grinding it out early on, right? When you're 21 years old, you were a financial planner, you were broke, you were in debt, you had credit card, like a lot of people are right now. So why don't we start there?
That's the funny part. You said I was a financial planner and I was broke with lots of credit card debt. Yeah.
Yeah, giving advice too.
I would love to hear a little bit about that when you get into your story, like what you were thinking as you were giving financial advice to people.
That's what's the term? So this is 2005, right? And especially with real estate gurus that were out there those days, you always heard like a fake it till you make it kind of a thing. And I definitely lived that lifestyle at age 21. So I started doing financial planning for people, if you believe it or not, when I was 20. And I was in college and I wanted to make some extra money. So I had already, at age 18, I had a financial planner who I was putting $25 a month away in a mutual fund. And by doing that, I just thought like, hey, cool, I'm finally saving. It actually came from reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I thought I should do it. But when I was 20, I wanted to make extra money. So I taught the same financial planning business. And I said, hey, can I work with you guys part-time? And, get licensed and learn all that cool stuff and teach people how to run their finances. And I did that. So while I was in college, and then I immediately dropped out of college just a few months later after starting that, because I was like, I could make more money doing this. And I also got introduced to real estate. I bought a seminar called How to Turn $10 into $10,000 in 30 days or less. And it was on wholesaling real estate and assigning contracts. So get that, start financial planning, drop out of college. And I thought I'd make a lot of money, and that didn't happen at all. And instead I got into massive credit card debt. And at least for me at the time, right, was massive credit card debt. Today, it's like, that's a revolving balance. But back then at 20 years old, when you have 10 grand in credit card debt, you think you're going to go broke. But did that, pulled out all my cash advances on my credit cards too, so I could survive while I was teaching 40-year-old somethings how to not be in debt and how to save for retirement and pay off their mortgages and all that stuff while I was a hypocrite. So,
well, but hold on one second. Before you gloss over something I think is important, you were learning. It's like, in order to be a financial planner, you have to go through a bunch of stuff, right? You have to get licensed, and that's knowledge. And all it did is it kind of shifted your mindset. And then you took this course, clearly $10 to $10,000 didn't actually work, but you took it, you probably gleaned some stuff from there. And I think that's kind of isn't that kind of the message here? Is that, you were at the plate swinging away, but you were also, light bulbs were going off, obviously, right?
I think that's a great point, Ken. Like, I was doing everything I could to try to learn as fast as possible. Like, I grew up very broke in my household, and we were like upper lower income. There you go. So we were low income, didn't qualify, but we made just enough to where we didn't qualify for anything for financial service purposes, like college loans, things like that. And because of that, I didn't want to be that way. And the rest of my family, I mean, if I made 30 grand a year, 35 grand a year, I would think that I was the richest person in the world back then. And I didn't want to be that way. I wanted to make a lot of money. I wanted to have a lifestyle. I wanted to own an island. I wanted everything. And so, but I didn't know how to do that. So I just kept learning, and I would like get CDs and I would listen to those. I'd read your books. Like I'd read everybody's books. My car was always a like university, like constantly I'd be driving and listening and going to anything I could to learn as fast as possible. But I also made a ton of mistakes back then. And I think that's where I learned most of my stuff, learning financial services by messing up my own finances, being able to relate to people, like trying to do the real estate thing and failing at that for about a year. But I just kept going. And so I got a lot of story there. I don't know where you want me to go with it, but I'm just kind of rambling now.
I think what would be interesting is like just to get into your mindset of a 20-year-old kid giving financial advice to these people. I mean, like, what were you thinking? Were you like in your head, were you like, I have no idea what I'm talking about? Or what was going through your mind?
I actually did think I knew what I was talking about. So that was a big thing, but maybe that's overconfidence. But that was part of it. I mean, financial education is, it is what it is. Like, so there's lots of different subjectivity to financial like strategies, but at the end of the day, it's pretty objective. Keep your liabilities low and your assets high. And I just kind of followed that as much as possible. So when I was talking to these 40 somethings, right. Or 30 somethings, 40 somethings, 50 somethings, about their finances, it was just like, we had a lot of software tools, like they kind of make me look cool. But it was basic math. Like you show somebody's liabilities, you show somebody's assets. This is your net worth. And you say you want to retire, but you have no money whatsoever. And you're not saving anything in your 401k. So you should probably do that. That's pretty much what financial planners do. Outside of course, trying to sell them cash value life insurance, which we never did. But for everybody listening, most financial planners are just insurance salespeople, in my opinion, at least. So
let me ask you a question. When you were sitting there, like, I can picture this, this 21-year-old kid, and sitting there looking at these people. Was it kind of like looking in the mirror and going, this is not where I want to be?
Totally. And people that were working great jobs, happy households, happy lives, but they were living paycheck to paycheck. And so I did it for 6.5 years, almost 7 years. And there wasn't a single client I could think of that was on track by any means whatsoever to where they actually wanted to go financially. And it was a great experience for me to go through, especially in my 20s, where I saw most of these adults, right? And people that have been working 20 years, 15 years, 30 years, and they're not on track whatsoever for any kind of retirement or any kind of lifestyle that they actually really want, but they think they are, right? That's the sad part, is that they think that if they keep doing what they're doing, they're going to get the results they're seeking. But it's just math. Like once they start seeing that they're not saving, they're in debt up to their eyeballs, and they have tons of liabilities, and there's nothing being put away for any kind of retirement or no assets at all. And then you kind of show it to them. You kind of feel bad a little bit, where you're like, hey, you're totally screwed unless you make some changes, big changes. And for some people, it was too late. Like they're already in their 50s and they have like 10 grand to their name. And they got nothing going for them in the future unless they make drastic change or work forever. And that was a big eye opener for me to have in my early 20s.
I think it's interesting that you say that, Tarl, because when I was in my 20s, I worked at a bank. Mm-hmm. And I think working at a bank, kind of to your point, taught me a lot about people, because when you're in your 20s, you think everyone has their shit together when they're in their 50s or 40s or, whatever. But then when you work at a bank or you work in financial services, you kind of realize, oh my gosh, these people that are carrying around Louis Vuitton bags and driving a Tesla, like they're paycheck to paycheck too. Yep. And so that was kind of eye-opening for me, where it's like, wow, it's not everyone that looks like they have their stuff together sometimes doesn't.
I remember you telling me this because Danille would say that she'd be a teller, right? Just fresh out of college.
Yeah.
And they would walk in with, all completely dressed to the nines, and then she'd pull up their account. They can't see. Right? So she's pulling up their stuff.
Or they'd be disputing because they overdrafted and, what came out first. And it's just like, wow, and I remember the one where it's my parents' neighbors and they were like a politician and the board and, all this stuff. And it's like, they don't have their stuff together either, and so I think it's important for young people. I think working in a financial job is very eye-opening because you kind of see, wow, I need to make a change, because that's how I was too. I was kind of paycheck to paycheck and I'm like, wow, this just doesn't magically just kind of start to work. I need to do something in order for this to work, or else I'm going to end up like the people that I'm helping.
I think when you're young, you just, for whatever reason, you're very naive and you're ignorant. You think that when people are 30 and 40, that things are going to get better just because there's more years, right?
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with that fully. And and also today's age, people are all over social media. It's very easy to look flashy on Instagram, and it's very easy to show the highlight reels of everything. So, it's unfortunate for a lot of the younger generation today. They see that and they think that everything is just so cool and easy and they're going to be all flashy too and make lots of money. But there's a lot of work involved in this, and it's a lot of mental work. And it's not going to just happen from a normal W-2 job, that's for sure. So
I know a lot of you are really trying hard to build your savings and improve your credit score to get into the real estate investing business. I want to tell you about this great app called Truebill. Truebill is an all-in-one finance app that helps you manage your subscriptions, lower your bills, monitor your credit score, and help you save up for that down payment. And guys, we already recommend this app as a resource in my Buying Your First Rental Property course. I guarantee that you'll probably have subscriptions you're not even using. Truebill can safely and securely identify recurring charges and cancel the ones you don't want. If one of your SMART goals involves budgeting, Truebill can help you set budgets and monitor your spending by category. Plus, lenders are more likely to give low-interest loans to people with good credit scores, and Truebill can help you monitor yours. Download the Truebill app for free at Truebill.com/Ken McElroy. That's Truebill.com/Ken McElroy, or by clicking the link in the description. Now, back to the show.
Exactly.
What would you, going back now, because I know we're going to have obviously listeners at all ages, what would you have told your younger self now? Like you've made some very, very good moves, and thankfully you got into the financial planning world early and it all kind of got exposed, but a lot of people don't. They got caught up in these corporate jobs. They're moving along and they're trying to move up in whatever they're trying to move up in, and I think one of the things that happens when you don't come from anything, Tarl, like you said it, you touched on it, you said you learn a lot when things aren't going right. I feel like you don't learn hardly anything when things are, because you get kind of comfortable.
And you get cocky too.
You get a little cocky and you're like, oh, it's all about me and look what I've done. It's hard when you're making money. It's hard when you come from money to actually look at things objectively and see what you could do differently. It's actually very hard. It's not that hard. I'm speaking from my own personal experience when all you have is up. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yes. When all you have is up and it's failure. I almost think, so for those of you guys listening, I do real estate, right? This is what I do now, right? So lots and lots of single family homes. And I've almost felt like I've made every single mistake you could make. Actually, I'm pretty confident I have made every single mistake you can make in single family real estate investing, like pretty much legitimately. And there's been times where I feel like I'm a martyr for real estate investors, just so I can go through these experiences and just be better, but also show other people how not to go through the same mistakes.
And before we jump off of that, how many homes are you talking about? Because I know pretty close to the number, but why don't you say it?
If I actually tallied them all up, it's somewhere around 650-ish, give or take, single family homes.
So this is somebody who's been through 650 single family home transaction, guys. So and within a kind of a short period of time too, honestly, because you're still on a track.
I'm 37 now, and I didn't go full time into real estate until about late 2011. So you're talking about the last decade. We've done most of these deals. But a huge chunk of them have been in the Seattle market since 2015, give or take. Yeah.
So what would you tell your younger self? Like,
yes.
What's something that somebody can take away and make a change?
I would say have more confidence in myself is a big thing. There was a lot of intuition and like gut checks that I thought would be the right thing inside of me, but my head was like, no, there's too much risk there. There's too much risk. Don't do it. And I was always afraid of losing it. Right. So it's because of coming from nothing. I had nothing. So I guess one thought is, if you go back to nothing, you just started out with what you already had. But I was also, as I was building up, I had fear that I would go backwards. And so I didn't take as many risks as I could have. And I didn't have the confidence that I wish I did to take more risks or more opportunity, make bigger chances for opportunities by pushing forward and having confidence myself and being okay at a young age to risk it more because I could always do it again. But looking back, there's just so many opportunities that I passed on in life just because I just didn't have the confidence in myself that I could do it.
Yeah, that Danille and I, we often talk about this. It's, scarcity versus abundance. Even in my own family, I have, people, and granted, I came from a scarcity mindset. My mom still today has a scarcity mindset, and which is totally cool. But when you grow up like that, and it's hard to punch through that, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is hard. I mean, especially around you, I'm sure, Tarl, you went through this too, but, people kind of think you're crazy,
yes.
For what you're doing. I mean, they think
much.
It's cool, but they also think you're crazy, because you're not on a traditional path, you're breaking away from the traditional path that you're supposed to take.
Yeah. And a lot of people have that, it's comfort zone, like comfort zone kills. So like, and a lot of people around you, when you start going for whatever, you're going outside your own comfort zone, you're sending ripples into other people's comfort zones. And for me, at least my experience, my own family, a lot of my close friends, they were trying to pull me back down to where they are, not so much like to protect me, but I think honestly to protect themselves. And because I was going for more and talking about it, trying to get everybody else to do it too. And they were like, oh, that's too risky. Maybe you shouldn't. Like it was just a constant push, especially from my immediate family, of like, don't do it. It's scary kind of a situation. And I'm very, very happy I didn't listen to a single word any of them said. So.
Well, right, exactly. And I think people, they worry about what other people are going to think if they fail. Like,
Correct.
I think that's a big one. I think it's less about if they fail, but more about what other people are going to think about them if they fail.
I remember Danille when she decided she didn't want to be a school teacher anymore. You moved back home.
Yeah.
And then she had that crossroads, right? She was like, she got her paycheck when, why don't you tell the story? Because I remember you went home, and I think there's two voices we're fighting. One is our internal voice, which is super hard to fight.
Well, yeah,
but then there's the exterior one with all your parents and friends, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think I didn't want to be a school teacher anymore because it just was unsustainable. I mean, I was working 3 jobs. I was broke. I didn't want to teach anymore. So I quit, but then I had no job. So I moved back home to Ohio. And, my parent, why'd you quit? You went to school for 4.5 years to be a teacher, and it's like, yeah, you're right. And then I got a job at the bank, that's when I got a job at the bank. And but I just, my first business was a bartending business, right? And I ended up having 30 bartenders under me, but it started with just me. And I remember that fear. I remember thinking, people are going to probably think this is kind of stupid, and I'm going to, what am I doing? And I have a college degree and da-da-da-da-da. But I had to fight over that because I had to say, you know what? I don't want to work for someone anymore. And all my skills at the time were in bartending. I had bartended all through college. I had bartended while I taught. I'm like, I think I could start this private bartending company. And I did, but it was really, really, really scary. I remember when I, how you used to announce things on Facebook, like Danille started this business. Yeah. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, everyone is going to think I'm so stupid, but I'm going to do it. Right. But then I really committed to it. And in the end, I was making, probably 3 or 4 times what I was making teaching. And I was making it not working 40 hours a week. And I was really enjoying it. And I had other people making the money for me, as Robert Kiyosaki talks about, in a business. And then everyone's like, oh my gosh, how do you do that? How can I start it? Oh my God, that's so cool. Yep. And they think the funny part is they think you never work, right? I remember one time there was a girl and she was like, well, you have all that time because all your bartenders just do all the work for you. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I wish it was that simple, but okay.
Yeah.
But then the traditional model, which is make money and invest it, right? And so that's actually why you have 3 rental houses.
Yeah, exactly. I started small, just thinking I just need to buy myself a place to live because I don't want to be paying rent forever. And I kind of did it a very not the smartest way knowing what I know now, but I basically paid cash for the place because I just saved up a ton of money. I just went from there kind of just started to build rentals. But if I would have stayed as a school teacher, I would still be working right now, summers off, broke, living in an apartment. And honestly, I remember thinking, even when I was a school teacher, if I don't marry somebody that can take care of me, I'm going to be living like this for the rest of my life. And that, as a young girl, was a terrifying thought because I never wanted to be in that position where I had to marry somebody for, because I couldn't take care of myself, you know, and that's, I really feel with a teacher. And trust me, I was not living lavishly. I think I was making $26,000 a year in Phoenix. So, I had a roommate. I drove an old car. I had nothing. There was no kind of high life going on around that.
Yeah.
So.
And similar story with you, huh, Tarl?
Oh, totally. I'd never made that much money as a real job before. So that sounds like a lot, 30 grand almost. But no, same thing. I drove my favorite, none of these are favorite stories, my horrible stories back as a kid, was when I went and got that seminar and I'm in my dad's old dress shoes. And I worked at Sears part-time too, by the way, and while financial planning. And I had Sears clothes on and like a tie on and everything. And and I'm driving this Mazda MX-3 that the window didn't work and the AC was busted in Sacramento, California. And it's 110 degrees in the summer there. It's not like Phoenix, but it gets pretty freaking hot. And I had to use a nail in the window roller, automatic window to roll it down. I had to stick a nail in there and hold it a certain way to be able to roll the window down so I would drive to appointments in my Mazda MX-3 that I actually got for free because it was covered in mold on the interior and I had to bleach the whole thing. And so that's my old self, doing all that stuff just to be able to try to not be broke all the time. But yeah, I used to do that. I used to go door knocking, looking for people's houses to wholesale them in that same little car in the drenched in sweat, knocking on their door and go on. Then all of a sudden I'd go on a client appointment and try to teach them how to save money and invest. And then I would go research more real estate stuff and then go knock on doors and then go on appointments for financial services. And I just kept doing that until one day I got good, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. It's so the point is, guys, everybody's got a story, and sometimes you look at somebody successful like Tarl, and you think there's such a big gap between where I am and where Tarl is, and I just want you to know that you can do it, right? People can do this.
Well, I think that so today, I'm sure you get hit up, Kenny, as well as you, Danille, where people say, hey, I want to how do I do what you did? Or how do I get what you've got? Right. Or I want to start full-time in real estate and I'm going to make a bunch of money in real estate. That's a big one I hear today is people wanting to go full-time in real estate. And, Danille, you have some rental homes, right? And you bought them cash, which is great. And so, and depending on who you talk to, right? But you were able to save up enough money to go buy them cash, which is great. So you get a cash flow from that and so forth with, maybe you have debt on them now, but a lot of people, they think that they just want to go full time and go buy a bunch of rentals and they're going to just be magically rich and well off. When in reality, most rentals are only going to get you maybe $200 a month in cash flow, $300 a month in cash flow, not much. And they don't really have a plan for what they're going to do when they go full time in real estate. So I don't know where I'm rambling with this, but basically what I'm trying to say is if somebody wants to be in business for themselves, they got to ask themselves, why are they doing it? and what are they going to do once they're full time? If your goal is to make a ton of money in real estate, then what does that actually look like? Are you going to go do massive builds like what Ken's doing now, right? You're building apartments now, right?
Yeah. Yep.
All right, cool. Yeah, you're going to go do that right out the gate, or are you going to go flip a house, right? Or are you going to go buy a rental? Like each one has its own financial, benefits to it, but you're not going to get rich overnight buying a bunch of single family homes as rentals and stuff, for instance.
Well, what I would think you're trying to say too is that this isn't easy and it's not a get rich quick
Correct.
situation. I hear people say that all the time. Oh, I'm just going to go flip a house, and make, some money. And it's like, well, I mean, what do you know about flipping a house? How much is your loan going to be? Do you have contractors set up? Is there, room to improve the value? I mean, there's so many things and it's not easy. And people actually lose a lot of money. I worked out with a lady where her and her husband did that. She was a school teacher. She's like, we're going to go flip a house. And I'm like,
Sounds
okay.
great.
And sure enough, they lost about $50,000 because they couldn't sell it. Nobody was buying it. It took like months longer than it was supposed to be completed. It was a hard money loan. And so all these things, and it's like, well, you didn't really know what you were doing. And I think that people don't want to do the hard work and the education part of it. They just want to be in real estate and make money. And that's just not how it works.
I lost 86 grand on one house, right? And I've had plenty of other losses on top of that. So if that's your first house, well, some people are bankrupt after that. But you can make a lot of money doing it. And I think to another point, there's people that get really, like what you said, Kenny, earlier, there's people that have nothing but success in real estate and they've never had those shortcomings and failures. And I've seen that with house flippers. House flippers are notorious for this, especially if you've started flipping houses in the last 4 years. The market's gone up a bunch. Like it doesn't matter if you're good at the business or not. The appreciation is saving you, like all this kind of stuff. And they make a bunch of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more. And then they go live that same lifestyle of making hundreds of thousands of dollars as well. So they're not saving any of the money and reinvesting it. So I was that way for many years ago, but where a lot of times our lifestyle follows our income, right? And so if you're having huge success as a house flipper and you're making $500,000, $1 million a year, you're also probably spending $500,000 or $1 million a year too, because unlike I think in Danille, in your shoes with buying rentals, a lot of people that go and buy passive income, they still budget and they still go save their money and they go buy another rental, versus house flippers are notorious for blowing all their money and spending it on more flips or Gucci or whatever. And I've seen that as well. And so I don't know where I'm going with that, but I think I'm just saying, like, if you've had nothing but success in this business, then you're in for a rude surprise one day.
I think it's a good segue to what you were saying is you kind of have to have a plan. So if you are going to get into this business, let's say you're in you don't really have a bright future in your career, or maybe you don't have a career, maybe you've been displaced in the pandemic or whatever it is. What are some early, easy steps people can make today in order to move the needle just a little bit? Because I think what I always tell people is I go, listen, I've always just tried to hit singles. That's all I've ever done. And guess what? Sometimes they're a home run. Sometimes it's a double. You don't know when you stand up to the plate what it's going to be. You don't. If you're swinging, you're swinging. And so, but I've always personally, always just try to hit singles. And that has been a great strategy for me.
I love that you said that. I've never put words to it, but I think that's all I've ever done is just try to, because even though we've done a lot of houses, I'm extremely conservative. So because my scarcity mentality or fear of failure, actually, or something like that, I don't know, fear of losing what I've built, but I have a very tight margin that not tight margin, wrong words. I have a very specific margin that I go after on a house. And that's why sometimes I've never had huge wins on a home that we bought, but I've also not had very many losses either. Like that one that I said for 86 is probably the worst one we ever had. But through that, some advice that we can give some people if they want to get started in this is know specifically what you're seeking out of the business. Like, what are you looking to develop cash flow, or are you looking to develop income, right? Are you looking to develop both, right? Are you wanting to work in single family, or do you want to do multifamily? Do you need to start like a baby step, such as do you go flip a house, right? Or do you go buy a rental? and grow from there, but know specifically why you're doing it and what your end goal is. If your end goal is to make 10 grand a month passive income, then your real estate journey should be geared towards that. And if that means you have to make a bunch of money to reinvest into other markets for passive income, or invest in Kenny's deals, right? As an LP, then you need to go make a bunch of money to do that. If it's to go source the deal yourself, find the contractors, negotiate with the sellers, actually work the entire project from start to finish and be hands-on the whole time, then that's another way to do it. But what are you willing to do to earn that 10 grand a month passive income? And how long do you want to take to get it? If it's to make $1 million a year flipping houses, all right, that's a different game. So, but what's your purpose? I think people really need to spend more time on that. And then also really define, like I've talked to a lot of people over the years about this, where you ask them what they're looking for in real estate, and they can't specifically tell you at all. They can't tell you the type of deal they're looking for. They don't know what a deal is when they see it. So if you could define what a deal is to you, then that's probably one of the very first steps, is like, what does that look like to you? Is it 15% cash on cash? Is it 20% ROI? Is it an 8 cap? Is it a 4 cap? Like what are you specifically looking for, as well as the geography and blah, 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 blah. So
yeah, and that's a really good point, Tarl. I get asked this too. And I always say, I'm looking for 200 units where I can force equity that has a 7% cash on cash return on the average over the first 3 years. So that's super specific. Yeah. And so what that does is it narrows a lot, but it also helps when you're trying to raise capital, because at some point, Tarl, as you know, especially all three of us, we run out of money quickly, right? Like whenever we have money, we invest it.
Yes.
So then we have to go outside of our circles, and we have to ask other people for money. And so you have to be that specific, because if you're raising money, you have to have that really clear for other people if they're going to invest in your vision too.
I think that's what's funny too, is that you just said we run out of money, right? And it might be hard for some people to realize that you only invest in real estate with money. So you constantly need capital in this business. And your balance sheet might look great, but your cash statement might not. So you need money to do this business, and we're investors in this business. So I think there's a lot of misconceptions, especially when you see house flippers that out there, or people that are doing just transactional based investing, that you don't need a lot of money to do this business. You do, but it's either going to be your money or somebody else's money that you're using, because we're investing, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah. And of course, what's the job for a job well done? A bigger job,
Big job.
Yeah.
Next one.
And so what happens is you buy one house and you want to buy another one. You buy 2 houses, you want to buy another one. And you're like, okay, this model worked. I learned a lot. Some things went great. Some things didn't go good. But that's the same thing with our company. When Ross and I, we got to 10,000 apartments, we were like, okay, the next goal is 25. And then all that comes with a whole new set of issues. And so, but I started with a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, just like so many other people. I started with not knowing how to do it and using my own capital. And then I didn't know how to do the rest, right?
Well, and I think that's an important thing you bring up too, is, people, we get a lot of questions on the YouTube and the podcast. Oh, I want to just raise money and I'm just going to buy something. And it's like, what experience do you have?
Yeah.
And why would anyone give you money if you've never done anything like this before? So you really need to start small. Manage a property if you don't have any money. Buy your own small rental if you do. I mean, you have to do something. I mean, it's not, people aren't just going to throw money at you if you can't prove that you know what you're doing, unless you're just a really good salesperson.
Well, I want to add though what you said too, Kenny, where it's like, you always went for more. Like, all right, I reached my level here. Now let's go to the next level. Now let's go to the next level. And I think that's good to a point though. Like, I just want to push that, because I've also seen the opposite, where people go to the next level, and then they lose it all because they bite off more than they can chew. But I think but for you, you're competitive, you're a go-getter, you want to grow, right? And I think that's great. But I also think for some people, they should stay at a certain level, because that's where maybe they want to be in their life. And maybe they're being pressured by society or others that they need to go for more, when in reality, they don't need to go for more. So I think what's really important is, what do you want in your life? And Kenny, you wanted to grow more, right? But there's other people that feel like they need to for some reason, but they don't want to. And I think that's important to also pay attention to.
That's a great point. My sister, it's funny, you met her. She, my sister Kathy, she did not go to college. She worked as a bookkeeper at a medical clinic in a little town called Everett, Washington, which is where I grew up. And she was making, a bookkeeper, and not a CPA, not an accountant, bookkeeper wage. And she started with one, and now she's got 20, I think.
Yeah.
Something like that. And, she just hit 60, and, she slowly chipped away at it. But now what's happened is she has millions of dollars in equity. Her tenants have paid off, her rentals. Well, largely she does use debt. Her husband, recently retired from a blue collar position. And, but she now has cash flow to the point where she went and now just bought a beautiful home where she wanted to be, and the cash flow is paying everything. She has no retirement. She didn't work for anybody that provided a retirement. She doesn't have a 401k. She had to do her own health care, and she did it all through this slow, methodical. I think she maybe bought one every few years, maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
Because she has the multifamily, so like one every.
Yeah. So it's just a long. She played the long game, and to your point, Tarl, she doesn't want to lose it, so she's completely content. She's like, I got, my tenants are paying off my houses. I'm good. I've got to manage them, and I've got to make sure the rent's coming in. And but her and her husband are fine. She does not want to go grow this and double and triple it. She just wants to be where she is.
And that's smart. Like, there's tons of people out there that have great careers that maybe love what they do. Who knows? And they make income, or maybe they make moderate income, but you can still invest that money, right? And you can invest in real estate, and you can build passive income. I remember I think he was 18 or 19 years old, and I met this guy. He was a firefighter out of El Dorado, California, and I was playing paintball. I'll never forget this guy. This guy changed my life just with the words he told me while we were playing paintball. And he said, I was talking to him about real estate because I was Red Rich Dad Poor Dad. I'm talking to everybody about that stuff. And he said that he owned 120 single family homes. And I'm like, why are you a firefighter? and he looked at me like I was like slapped him in the face. And he's like, I am a firefighter. That's who I am. That's what I do. And I'll do it to the day I die. I will burn every house I own down before I ever stop being a firefighter. Firefighting is who I am. The houses just provide me the lifestyle. And it just clicked. And I'm like, wait, you can do what you love and then go make money doing other things like investing and so forth. So it was a big eye-opening experience for me, just talking to that guy briefly at a paintball field.
Yep.
Well, and that's true. Like I, my real estate pays for my life, like all my bills and everything else. And I still enjoy, working with Ken. I still enjoy being an esthetician. I still enjoy other things. But when you don't have to do them 40 hours a week and all the money you make from them, you get to do fun things with, it makes life a lot more fun than working to pay rent or working to pay your car payment. My rentals do all of that for me. So then my, earned income is just, it's fun, and that really allows me to do my passion and have a good time, but also not have to slave away 40 hours a week and burn myself out.
Right. So all of us were on track before the pandemic. Obviously, we all have been buying real estate. You went from flipping to cash flow, which I definitely want to talk about. But what was really cool was you and Grace and your new little one. You decided, you know what? I'm going to move to Hawaii.
Yeah.
During the pandemic. So you went where you wanted to go. So let's talk about that, because you moved from, the People's Republic of Washington to Hawaii.
From Chaz to Hawaii.
If you're on the west side of the Cascade Mountains in Washington right now, you're definitely part of the People's Republic. But anyways, so my wife and I actually, at the end of 2017, this is pre-COVID even, but it is a reason why we were able to move to Maui so easily. I was grinding. Like we had multiple employees and we were growing and we were doing tons of houses and we just had like just massive amount of activity with what we were doing. But yet, despite the fact that I had like exponential growth as far as my, house volume was going, even my gross profits, everything were up, my personal net had equaled the same amount as the previous year. And it had really pissed me off because of overhead. So overhead went up and operations went up and costs went up, but my take home and my personal net stayed the same. And I'm like, how come I worked harder and grinded harder to have more of these W-2 people running around me and working for my business, yet I'm more stressed and I made the same amount of money. And so it really upset me. And so I kind of came to a head realizing I need to make some changes in my life. And I had a buddy of mine tell me that he's a very successful real estate investor. He told me that most people plan their entire business and build their entire business, and then whatever life is left over, they make the rest of their life fit that. So they work their business, they work their job, whatever it is, and if they have any time left over, they let the rest of their life revolve around that remaining sliver of time. Versus, why not just plan your life out the way you want it, and then make your business adapt to how you want your life to be. So make your business change versus you change for your business. And it was a big eye-opening experience for me at the end of 2017. So I told that to Grace and I sold her on it. And we sat down for a number of weekends with a big, huge white butcher paper out. We started planning how we wanted our business to actually be so that we can live the lifestyle we wanted. And we wanted to be able to travel a minimum of 6 months a year remotely and be able to run 100% of my business via my phone. And not basically the answer is this, like, if I have to be on a laptop, I'm wrong, right? Basically, so everything on my business has to be ran by my phone. That was the new business plan we started changing at the end of 2017. And we also wanted to be able to travel, and we wanted to be able to do business because we wanted to, not because we had to. So that means we actually had to reduce our goals. So we actually reduced our income goals, reduced our business production goals. We reduced all of our goals just to the point to where we can live how we really wanted to live, which was travel and be together every single day. So my wife and I wanted to spend every day together, and we weren't. And so since making that decision at the end of 2017, I could legitimately say we've spent pretty much every single day together, and we still like it too. And so we did that. So we changed our business going into 2018. And so when the pandemic hit, we had already been working remotely, even though we lived in the same area as our properties and our business. I didn't go to them anymore. We still traveled. We traveled 120 to 180 days a year. And then we weren't able to travel in 2020. And so when the opportunity arose from our buddy Brandon, who lives right across the street from us here in Maui, was like, hey, come to move to Maui. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, let's go do that for 6 months. We'll just do that for fun. And then so we just picked up and left, brought our dog, our cat, and our kid to Maui at this house here that I'm at right now. And then after 4 months of being here, we're like, why the hell are we going to leave in 2 more months? Let's stay longer. So it's been a year now, and nothing's changed in our business. And so, but it's allowed us to live wherever we want to live, work with whoever we want to work with. And it's all because of the decision we made at the end of 2017 with just making our business adapt to the lifestyle we want.
Yeah. Listen, what a great story. And so for those of you that are listening, I think what happens is a lot of times we get caught up in routines and habits. We get up, we get in our car, we go to work, or we open the laptop, or you grab your phone immediately right when you wake up, and you immediately spend whatever time, and you fall into these, what I consider to be, distractions. Mm-hmm. And what you guys did was you were super intentional about, and on the same page, which by the way is not easy when you now throw a spouse in. But if you don't have that, it should be super easy. If you do, it's a little more convincing. Okay. But what you did, this is pre-COVID, is you had it all set up. So, and I've known you long enough to know that, like you guys have come to our home in Coeur d'Alene. Yep. And, so what happens is when people call you, like Brandon, which, I love, by the way, that's Beardy Brandon from BiggerPockets. You
Brandon Turner.
Yeah, Brandon Turner. He just got 2 new books out, by the way. You should take a look at those. And when he called, or when we called, you guys came. Yeah. And being able to have that freedom and the income You're not worried about the plane tickets and
Nope.
the savings account, and you have the time. It's really, really, it's a shift in the way that it's freeing. Don't you agree?
I think it's the most important thing. Like, at least for my goal when I was in my early 20s wasn't to have millions and millions of dollars. It was to live freedom choice, right? Basically having freedom option choices. And if that meant I had to have millions and millions, okay. But if it meant that I had consistent income every month, but I was still able to do what I want, when I want, whenever I want it, then that's really all I wanted. And that's what freedom is, right? But we have different levels of that. Some of us want to be on Lear jets to go travel and stuff and on a Gulfstream, and others like, I don't mind being like at Southwest, even though you can't take Southwest right now, but it doesn't bother me. Like, whatever, I don't care as long as I get there. But it's, some of us want to stay in a penthouse. Some of us don't mind staying at different hotels. So it's whatever's good for you. Like, what do you want in your life? Right. And my wife and I are very bad at being grateful, doing gratitude things for ourselves, basically appreciating what we have. I think that just comes from like just grinding and working so long. We really, really are working hard to try to have that appreciation, gratitude mindset for ourselves. But this last year has been a good experience for us to look around going like, wait, what are we stressed out about? Like, there's a lot of bad shit going on in the world, and we're able to still make choices that we want and live how we want to live. We should really be grateful for this right now. And I wish that I want to be better at that. So I just feel like, just like you want to get a bigger deal, like I still feel like I'm just checking boxes. Like I'm just, yep, I did that. Yep, I did that. Yep, I did that. Now I need to go accomplish this. Yes, of course, I live in Maui. Cool. Now where am I going to live? And then it's just becomes a checklist for me, and just for being a task manager. And I don't know if that makes sense or if that resonates to anybody.
Oh my God, you hit a perfect one, Tarl. I'm telling you, like we say this all the time, is you got to stop and celebrate the win.
Yeah.
And be grateful. And it is true, whether you're accumulating or you're just moving to the next thing or the next appointment or whatever, it doesn't make sense after a while.
Well, and I do think it's important you celebrate your wins, even if they're small wins, right? Maybe it's saving your first $5,000 or buying your first rental, or, too often, and even myself included, you blow by those things because, to your point, Tarl, you check a box. Okay, I got a condo for myself. Check, instead of congratulations for saving all this money to buy a condo for yourself. You kind of need to give yourself a little bit of praise too,
You do. And you need to celebrate that. And it sounds great. I love people that are very good at celebrating. I love being around them. Right. So it makes me feel better. Right. I'm like, oh, I can celebrate too. This is good. I have permission. I think part of it is just giving yourself permission. Like, and that's you deserve to celebrate. Right. But on the other side of it, when shit hits the fan, you know how to get after it and like take care of it. So it's like, you're not dwelling on it either. Like, I think there's a catch-22 when you aren't very good at celebrating. It means you also don't dwell when you're, when the crap hits the fan and stuff either. You just go get after it. But
that's a good point.
So
that is a good point. Before we jump, when you guys became very efficient, I know there's some technology out there that definitely can help you guys. I mean, that was when you first said, hey, how can we do this from a smartphone? There had to be a tremendous amount of research. What can you share? What are some of the things that you did that people can also do now to help speed things along and use AI and use technology to make them more efficient?
So I can only speak for my personal business. So depending on what you're doing in your business is going to adapt. But like, it's like, look, it's 2021, right? So if you don't use any kind of technology, then congratulations, you're one of the only people. But the fact is, like Dropbox, Google Drive, we use this program Smartsheet, we use Asana, like we've used a bunch of other programs like Basecamp and so forth too. There's VoIP services that you can use for phone calling services. There's so many cool technologies out there to help your business run via the cloud, right? In some capacity. So for us, we use Smartsheet, Asana, and Dropbox. Those are the three softwares we use all the time for everything. But each purpose of those softwares has a different process, system, SOP, whatever you want to call it, for why we use it. And I think what's really, really important for people that want to, develop streamlined systems, processes for their business, is to not like jump around a lot. Is to kind of like there's no magic software that's going to make everything better. Like it doesn't exist. So you have to find something that adapts well to you, and then just go use it, right? Use the heck out of it, build a process out of it, and then change slowly, in my opinion, with it. Like because there's always shiny pennies everywhere. Like somebody else uses Monday, and somebody else uses like, I don't know, Trello, and somebody else, there's so many programs out there, and there's a lot of people that want to compete for your software business too. But find something that works for you, build a process around it, and actually document it. And I think that's where most people fail. Where we succeeded is as we built out standard operating procedures for our business, we actually documented it, and it wasn't just in our head. So it all starts with you. So even if you are by yourself in your business, you think, why do I need to document my process? I'm by myself, right? Well, because as you get busy and as you start to scale, those processes are going to need to be duplicatable with people that you bring on and hire. And they need to be able to understand it. So it's not a system if you're the only one that can work the system. So other people need to be able to adapt to it too. But this is a big conversation, but like, that's kind of what I just have done over the years. I've read there's 3 books. There we go. I'll get that. Here's 3 books that my entire business runs off of.
Yeah. What are they?
The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, which is all about mentality, right? In my opinion, which is just like, how do you take something complicated and make it simple? Or if it's a 10-hour process, how do you turn it into a 1-hour process? It's just like really challenging yourself for those kind of processes, I guess. The other one is The One Thing by Gary Keller, which is like, what's your highest and best? Like, what's the one thing that either you or your business needs to focus on? What I found for me after really reading that, and then I wrote out a list of everything my company has to do. And the number one thing that I am best at, which I'm best for my company at, is networking. So I realized that if I can go network and I can go make it rain for my business, then that drives all business to us, right? So that's my strategic ability for my company, is networking. And then it also trickled down to what's the most important thing in our rehab process, that if we just took care of this thing in the rehab process, everything else becomes easier. On our acquisitions, what's the most important thing we need to look for there? So The One Thing by Gary Keller is a great book to get that mentality shift for us to really focus on what's most important. And then the third book is the Checklist Manifesto by Atul Gawande, which I don't know if you guys have read that, but I love that book. It's a medical field book actually, but it's about taking really complicated processes and making them into a simplified checklist, and the mentality around doing that. So we use those 3. I've used those 3 books to pretty much mentally shape how we do our business. And the 4-Hour Workweek is selfish. So it's more, how do I get everybody else to do everything so that I can go live my life? But the checklist and the Checklist Manifesto and The One Thing is where like our SOPs really come from for how we run things through Asana and Smartsheet on our end. So
those are great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've read the first 2, of course, and you just reminded me I need to reread those because it's been a while. But the Checklist Manifesto, that's an interesting one. I hadn't heard that one before.
Yeah, I really like that book, and it's actually a fun read. It's actually about how they took how one of the leading causes of infections and death in a lot of hospitals was doing an intravenous IV through your spinal, like almost like a spinal tap, but through your spine and IV, and how a simple checklist pretty much eradicated all infections and people dying from getting infected by an IV in their spine, versus some medicine or it was just a simple checklist. And it's the whole story of how that got developed. And it's a great business book, but this underlying story behind it is this healthcare situation that Atul was a part of, because he's a orthopedic surgeon and he gets hired by other consulting things. Really cool book. I really like his books actually.
Yeah, that sounds good. So, I'll tell you the one thing though, obviously that's a great book. One of the things that we studied that book here, and our one thing we decided as a company was take care of the resident. Mm-hmm. So, we have 10,000 tenants, residents living in our properties. And if we take care of them, occupancy stays high, turnover stays low, employees stay happy, investors make more money. But the process, a lot of times what happens is it's probably not what a lot of people would think would be our focus. But sometimes people think investor returns are our focus, or, buying a property and having the right cash flow. All those are, don't get me wrong, they're important. But it all boils down to that resident, for us at least. That's our one thing. And so our whole company revolves around that. All decisions are made around that tenant, the resident experience, and then everything resonates from there. And it's really been helpful for our company to stay focused on that one issue.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's like a trickle down effect, right? And it seems like for you guys, you chose that. Like for me, we flipped houses. Like, so I realized if we focus on planning, like that was our big thing. If we get really good at planning, then everything else is really easy. And that's a loaded thing. That means a lot of stuff, but especially on our rehab process, but we just focus so hardcore on the planning phase. Everything else is easy if we just have a good plan. And all of our mistakes have come in our business because we rushed into things, or we, bit off more than we could chew, or whatever it might be. But everybody has a different one thing for their business. They just got to know what it is. And most people don't, unfortunately.
Yeah, I would agree with you. So Tarl, we're wrapping up here. So a couple things. One, thank you. This has been you've been a great friend, and it's always great to see you guys. And we want to come see you out in Hawaii before you roll out of there.
Yep.
That's number one. Also, two, how do people get a hold of you? What's the best way?
I would honestly say, unfortunately, right now through social media. So Instagram, my handle is @Tarl Yarber, and TARL, and then last name Yarber, YARBER. That's one of the best ways to reach me directly, is just you can message me on Instagram. Through that, honestly, that's it. Like our website, we don't really promote it. We don't really push things out right now for it. We're kind of under the radar a little bit right now. But that'll change later as we start going into 2022. But yeah, Tarl Yarber on Instagram.
Oh, hey, thanks again, buddy. Always great seeing you, and can't wait to see you and Grace very, very soon.
Oh, thank you guys. Thanks for allowing us into your life.
Yeah,
you guys are awesome.
You too,
you too, man.
Thanks, Tarl.
Cheers.